Over the last 2 months or so, I've talked to probably 150 trades business owners across the country. People see this channel, they usually will find a link in the description somewhere, fill out a form, and that leads to having a conversation with me where I get to talk to them about their business, ask them questions, and help them figure out a plan for marketing. In doing so many of these calls lately, I've started to develop some kind of framework for understanding this stuff. I'm dealing with so many people every day that I have to quickly figure out what box to put them in so I understand, so that I can understand where they're coming from and what the right plan will be for them. And so I've started to develop this line of thinking as far as breaking trades companies into 4 phases when it comes to their marketing. And I think this makes for a valuable video for you because understanding which phase you're in can help you get an idea of what you should be focusing on and what your options are. And also at the same time, which might be even more important, is help you figure out what things you shouldn't be paying attention to now so that you can make faster progress and eventually hire a company like Adapt to do your marketing and help you grow and all that stuff. But some of you will not be in the phase where you are able to hire a company like us, and so you would be in phase 1. So I call phase 1 the hustle phase. And I call it that because as the owner of the company, it's typically when you just have to hustle. That's the answer. Because you probably don't have enough jobs going to fill your time. So you have lots of time, but you don't have lots of money to invest in marketing or growth. And so you've got to figure out how to do this stuff yourself. Typically, revenue-wise, this would be like 0 to 100,000, maybe even 200,000, depending on what your business is and your personal situation. But typically, if your revenue is under 100,000, you aren't really making enough profit to invest anything. Your profit is going straight to paying your bills, and that's about all you got. There's ways that you need to hustle. The first thing I would do is get your Google Business Profile. That's a GBP now. They used to call them a GMB. Either way, get your Google Business Profile because it's free. It just takes some time. Start stacking reviews on that. So that plus reviews will be important whether you're in phase 1, 2, 3, 4, or even beyond the scope of this. That's super core to everything you do. And if you start doing it from day 1, you'll be very happy later on. If you wait until phase 2 or 3 to start worrying about reviews, you're really behind the 8 ball and everything costs you 10 times as much time and money to make progress. This is also the phase where you might be going door to door, hitting up everyone inside of your network, doing everything you can. Maybe I know some people who join Facebook groups and they talk to people, they try to get recommended. That's a lot of networking. But in a nutshell, you don't have any jobs going or you don't have enough to fill your time and you don't have any money to get jobs. So you got to go find them. You got to go hunt them down. This phase will take you all the way to the point where you're cash flowing, you're starting to make money because you have jobs going. And that's around phase 2, and I might bounce around with these a little bit, but phase 2 is typically when your time starts to go down and your money starts to go up. And in order to grow, somebody needs to be marketing your company, but you don't necessarily have the time, the knowledge, or the will to actually do that yourself. And so you start looking for a company like Adapt to handle your marketing and help you grow. I call this the foundation phase. So this is when you're building your marketing foundation. A really core piece of that is your Google Business Profile, which is why I put it as early as possible because that's the one place you always want to get reviews. So that's core. Google Business Profile plus reviews. Hopefully you started getting it in phase 1, but some of you come into this business and you start in phase 2 because maybe you're coming out of another job, or you got a small business loan, or you just had capital set aside to go into this and be able to invest in your company. And that's the time where you start investing in the foundation. So to me, the foundation marketing wise, it's all about being on Google, and it's being on Google Maps, because Google Maps is where A, you get the highest quality leads you can online, and B, They are always the cheapest leads in the long run, because Google Maps is organic, meaning you don't pay Google to be there. Google shows you because it's determined you're the best result to show people. If you're there, you're just there naturally. You're not paying to be there. And if you're there for a long time, many years, that number of leads you get from there really adds up to be quite a bit. And it might be a bit of an investment, usually around $6,000, to have somebody get you a proper foundation. But after a few years, the cost per lead is like less than $10. And these are also the highest quality. And so the foundation is your website, your Google business profile, and basically we call it online presence. It's all the mentions of your company online make up your online presence. Like your Facebook profile, your Yelp listing, like whatever. Everything that is online that isn't your profile or your website is your online presence. When all of this stuff is dialed in, it equals being on Google Maps, and that's where the best leads are. I work with a lot of companies who will stay in phase 2 for a really long time. Like Lundy's Landscaping, for example. He did this like 5 years ago. He went from $400,000 a year to nearly $4 million a year before he moved on to phase 3, which I'll get to in a second. I know a lot of companies that will just stay in phase 2 indefinitely. Some people don't want to grow past $1 million or $2 million, and they're happy to stay in that range, and they just completely dominate their market on Google Maps, and they continue to get reviews and build a moat around themselves. And they don't need to progress any farther with their marketing. That's all they need. But some people decide to keep progressing because they want to grow past whatever they can get out of their foundation. This is, I guess I'd call phase 3 like the advertising phase, because this is where you start looking for ways to pay to play. And the reason this is 3 and not 2 isn't because every single person on the planet needs to have a strong foundation to advertise. Sometimes you might do them in reverse order, but 99% of the time you want to have a really strong foundation before you advertise, because if you don't, advertising won't work very well and it'll cost a lot more money. There's a really good book called The One Thing. I want to say the author was Gary Keller, but don't quote me on that. But the book is awesome. It's a really great business book. And the whole premise is that you, as a business owner, you should focus on one thing at a time. And the way that you determine what that one thing is the one thing that will make everything else either irrelevant or easier. And so that's where this foundation really comes into play, because it makes advertising a lot easier and sometimes irrelevant. Sometimes you don't even need to advertise. But if you do, you basically have 2 options on Google. So you have local service ads and Google ads. See if I can spell Google today. Basically, LSA, you're buying calls, and Google ads, you're buying clicks. At the end of the day, you're paying for people to find you, and then some of the people that find you end up becoming leads, and it gives you more opportunities to sell your services and make more money. Now, another reason why the foundation is better, I said these are not better, but comes first. I said these are the highest quality leads you can get. If you think about it for 2 seconds, you'll see why. There's a lot of people, and I'm one of them, where I never click on ads. I'll do a Google search, I'll search for a house cleaner near me, and I will see the little sponsored thing and I will immediately scroll past it, because I've been trained my entire life to avoid ads like the plague. I hate commercials, I hate advertisements. I've been doing Google for 30 years. I know that if I skip over the ads, I'll go find what I'm looking for. And so I go down to Google Maps, and because I shop on Amazon all the time, my eyeballs are trained to go look at the reviews and see who has the most reviews, and then start doing my homework from there. Whoever has the most reviews gets the first look from me. I'll read their reviews. I'll go to their website. I'll see who these people are. If I go to their website and it looks like total garbage, I will immediately go back, find someone else, because I'm looking for any reason not to hire this company. And the one that I end up calling is the one that checks all my boxes. By the time I call them, they're usually the only person I'm calling, because I've done my homework. I've spent my time finding the best search result, and now I'm contacting them because I want to work with them. So when they call me back, I always answer the phone. I always want an estimate. I've already decided I want to work with them. They just need to not mess it up. Those are the kind of leads that come from Google Maps and your foundation. Now let's talk about the kind of lead that comes from LSA or Google Ads. I go to Google, I type in what I'm looking for, an ad pops up at the top, and I click on the first thing I see and I call you. Now, my form of due diligence or homework is I'm just going to call the first 2 or 3 companies I see. I'm going to tell them all I want to quote. I'm going to get quotes from all of them, and then I'm going to pick the one I like the best, usually the cheapest. It's not that these leads are not good, it's just that they're not as good as these, because these ones are already way more qualified to work with you because they've already decided, they know who you are, they've done their homework on you, and they already want to work with you. These kind of people don't really know you. They clicked on the first thing they saw. It's the quality for you as the business owner goes down because it'll take more of these kinds of leads to close a job generally. But that doesn't mean that it's not a good idea, because at a certain point you need more, and so you progress and you advertise. This is typically, I would say phase 2, phase 1 was 0, let's just say 200,000. These are general, so it's going to be a little different for everyone. Phase 2 would be 200,000 to $1 million. Phase 3 would be 1 million to, let's just call it 3 to 5. It will vary based off of what kind of business you are in your market, but that's pretty general. But at a certain point, you won't be able to get more out of the advertising. There's a lot of ways to advertise though. You can use Yelp, you can buy leads from Angie, you can do billboards, there's all sorts of stuff that you can do. You might even be able to get to 10 plus million with your company just advertising like a madman and spending tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands a month on your advertising. But at a certain point, you're going to be hitting the wall and you're going to have to go into the 4th phase, which I call expansion. So typically, let's just say you're in a market with 1 million people in it. The population's 1 million. You go through this whole process, you've got a rockin' foundation, you're doing all the ads you can possibly do, and then you say to the ad guy, I want to grow more, and he's like, well, we're already spending as much as we can't spend anymore. So that's when you start looking at either adding locations or services. If you do roofing and siding, maybe you add on windows, because that opens this whole other market that you are not tapping into and can add a whole other section of your company that could add millions. Or locations. So you can basically, once you've mastered this process, you can do, it's the same for all trades companies. There's little parts of it that are slightly different. The business model, pricing, that stuff might be a little different, but as far as marketing goes, we all have the same options. And since 95% of people go to Google now, even AI, if you ask ChatGPT, you know what it does? It goes to Google and does a Google search for you. They might have a Google listing with, let's just say they have 500 reviews and their next best competitor has 300. That's when it's clearly time to open another location and start building up your reputation and your reviews on that one. Because if you have 500 and the next guy's got 300, getting another 100 reviews really doesn't help you beat them. You're already beating them. So it makes sense to start building up your presence in another area. Let's say you're in Houston, for example, it would probably take 10 different listings scattered around Houston to eventually cover the whole city. Maybe even more than that, depending on how competitive it is. But at some point, you just duplicate this whole process across different services and different locations. You can pretty much take that as far as you can go. I can't really think of anything else that you do. There are some things on the back end that I recommend, like referral cards. I've talked about those a lot on my channel. I would start doing that as early as phase 1. These referral cards are some of the cheapest things that you can use for your marketing. But basically it says $250 for you, $250 for a friend. Give this to a friend who needs X services. They receive a discount and you receive $250 when the job is done. If you give a few of these to every single customer you have, even if you only have 3 customers, and you do a great job for them and you get that Google review and you're their contractor of choice now, they're going to hand these out to other people, and now your customers are duplicating themselves. So you should be doing stuff like this from day one, and as you progress through here, it just compounds everything you're doing. If you're only relying on ads and you're not working at all to get more customers on the back end, like, you're really missing out. And advertising gets really expensive because chances are you've got competitors who've been doing this for a really long time, and they already know how much money they can spend to acquire a customer. If you're just starting this stuff, you haven't figured that out yet. And so it can be kind of scary. You go in and spend $5,000 and you've never done it, so you're not even sure if it's going to work. Meanwhile, you have a competitor spending $50,000 a month, and they've tracked their numbers every day. They've been doing this for 10 years, and they know exactly how much money they make when they put $50,000 in, they get X out. Doing little things like these referral cards can really help ease your transitions across these different phases. I mean, hell, you might even just stay in phase one forever. If you're a one-man show and you get really good at these referrals and you do an amazing job, you might get all the customers you ever need without even needing a website or anything. I know plenty of contractors who've done that. Yeah, I guess the last thing I would say is, like, the way that these phases go, especially when you get to 2, because that's when you really start having to decide what to invest in marketing, is we start with the highest quality leads, and but typically they come in the lowest quantity. And we start there and then we work our way up, trading quantity for quality the whole way through. That's really what I look at when I try to determine, like, what's the best marketing option for a given company at the moment, is given their size and their budget and their capacity, what is going to give them the best bang for their buck now and in the long run. And most, like, I'd say 99% of the time, it's get a strong foundation and scoop up some of those really high quality leads. 80% of the time, it's not a really high quantity, so there's not that many. Like, my remodeling company gets about 5 to 10 leads a month just from this. They're all super high quality. They're all people that give us our budget. They're really good leads. But in the past, when I've advertised, like on Google Ads, it's a completely different ball game. It might take me, 3 high quality leads to close a deal, but it might take me 10 on ads. And that's just the way it goes, and that's to be expected. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're going through this, hopefully you've been able to identify, like, which phase you're in, and that you've received a couple pointers that'll help you know what to focus on. But if you want my help directly, at least for now, you can get it by finding the link in the description. Go do whatever you need to do on that page, and I'll talk to you. I'll take a look at your situation, and I'll help you decide, like, which phase you're in, what are your best options at the moment, what's going to be coming down the line, and I'll be able to show you examples of other people like you who are doing it. In general, how it works. It works the same for everybody. About 20% of the people that I talk to end up hiring us to take them from phase 2 all the way through phase 4. If you're still in phase 1, we'll see if we can help you get to the next phase so you can pay us to do your marketing. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Otherwise, learn from this and take some action and make some more money.